Good morning and welcome everyone. What a beautiful day in southwestern Pennsylvania. I'd like to thank everyone for coming today, and especially Dr. Esper. What a great gentleman, and what a great experience to be able to work with him and work with the Esper family on this project. On behalf of the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Uniontown, my name is Mark Rafel. I am the former director of the Redevelopment Authority and now currently the Economic Development Coordinator for the County of Fayette. And to Mark's immediate left is Ellen Ulmer. She is the designer of both the Center Park and this park, and also the Plaque. And she has worked very hard with me to do this, so we appreciate it. Today we recognize the 27th Secretary of Defense of the United States of America, but even more significant, the second, right here from Uniontown, Fayette County, which is really an astonishment to understand and to fathom that we had two gentlemen from this area. We're the only community to do that in the United States of America. Thank you. I had nothing to do with either one of them. Let me give you a little history on how this came about today. In July of 2019, Attorney Sam Davis, who was the solicitor for the Redevelopment Authority, and I were talking about the appointment of Dr. Esper. We have something in common. Dr. Esper is of Lebanese descent, and so are we. As a matter of fact, I think there's a relationship. My mother always told me that we were related to the Espers, but unfortunately I wasn't into history back then, so I really didn't ask her how.
We're all cousins.
We're all cousins, exactly right. So we have other cousins in the room too, so you'll meet them later. But we realized that Dr. Esper had the distinction of the second Secretary of Defense to be appointed. With that, Sam and I said we should honor Dr. Esper in some manner and contacted Ellen. We thought it through and thought of the plaque idea, and there it was, we created the plaque. Then we started looking for funding. We talked some different ways. We applied for a grant because we noticed that the George Marshall plaques that you see around were in disrepair and needed to be refurbished. So we reached out to the county, applied for a grant, and we received that grant. Unfortunately, by the time the grant came through, the cost of everything went up, so we had to take the Esper plaque off. But we said we weren't going to stop. We were going to make sure that we had the Esper plaque done. So we started a fundraising campaign. COVID hit, and all the other fun things we had in 2020 and 2021. We finally got the money together. We placed the order. And at that time, we decided we wanted to do something for it, so we got the order together. And I want to thank the Redevelopment Authority for allowing that campaign to go through. But more importantly, I want to thank the Plaque donors, Chris Clussen family. I know Chris is here. Bill and Ellen Ulmer and family. Ellen is here, Bill is here. Ron Gabriel, who could not make it, and his family. Alan George and his family, Matt George is here. And the most important person, and the push of all pushes, who made sure that this was not going to go away, is Polly Esper, Mark's mother. So Polly, thank you very much for contacting me, contacting Ellen, and making sure that we did this project. At this time, I would like to ask Ellen Ulmer to come up and say a few words. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this historic occasion. Thank you, Mark, for making sure that it all happened. And I just say that it really is a pleasure to be here, like right here where I've been for more than 25 years, planning, building, planting flowers, pulling weeds, watering flowers, whatever it takes to try to keep things presentable here. The idea for the plaza, as Mark said, was well, he didn't really say, but it was conceived by a group called the Friends of Marshall. And they were really dedicated to preserving the memory of George C. Marshall, who is well known all over the world and maybe not as well known locally, and we really had to do something about it. So across Main Street, you can take a walking tour if you start down at that end and read plaques that will describe the life of General Marshall from his childhood days spent right in this neighborhood to plaques that document all of his accomplishments along the way that impacted millions of people worldwide. wide. Developed a couple of years later, this side of the street was a place for us to incorporate some statuary. We have a World War II soldier back here who is kind of gazing across the street by a little nod of respect to his great general. Then we have Marshall on the bench, as we fondly call him, who is also kind of looking in the same direction, maybe reflecting on his life, or maybe he's like looking to the future. Well, the future is now, and Uniontown, Pennsylvania is proud to memorialize another local statesman and hero. Can, as Mark has mentioned, and we're going to say it over and over, can any other town lay claim to the fact that we have two secretaries of defense? Anyway, Mark Esper did grow up in Uniontown, still has family here, and they're well represented. His formative years were spent in this community, in our schools, our churches, in his neighborhood up on the hill. That would be a hill above Dixon Boulevard, like, you know, go up Mullen Street or one of those and go up on the hill and do your playing there, right? Mark's parents were also local, so he grew up with lots of cousins and aunts and uncles, and we know how important that is. He, as a teen, had various part-time jobs, and I know this sounds really unremarkable so far, right? Like, how many of us can say exactly the same thing? We have this background, but Mark Esper had a little fire burning in him. He had bigger dreams. He had more desire, perhaps, and he needed to make a difference in the world. Today, we're celebrating his role as Secretary of Defense, but needless to say, there are many other accomplishments and awards that preceded that appointment, and I'm sure there have been quite a few since that appointment. I will not stand here and try to list them all. You are welcome to read the plaque once it's unveiled. You are welcome to Google Mark Esper, and you are welcome to buy the book next week, right? Oh, blush. Clearly, we're all very proud to claim you as our own, and we're honored that you are here for this unveiling. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Mark T. Esper.
Well, thank you both Mark and Ellen for those kind comments. I really appreciate it. I think first things first, I want to say a number of thanks out there, and it begins with the board of the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Uniontown, and Mark, again, for all the work you've done. I want to thank the mayor and the city council. The mayor's here. Mr. Mayor, thank you, and the other council members. Thank you for this today. And then, of course, Ellen and Sam Davis. But was also mentioned where there are many important people that contribute financially to this. So I want to thank the Plus family, Chris Plus and his family, for what they've done. Bill and Ellen Almer. So I know Bill is over there. Bill and I actually went to school together, and his house is not far from mine, up near what used to be Arford School, which is now Arford Park. The Gabriel family, and I know they're represented here, I believe. Greg and I used to play basketball years ago down at Bailey Park. That was kind of our summer ritual to do that. So I want to thank them, and of course, Alan George family and my mother for her push and any number of other things, not least of which for me being here today. So I want to thank all those folks and others that I may have missed in the audience. Let me just begin. I know we don't want to take up too much time, but I'm very humbled to be presented with an award of this stature in a plaza dedicated to George C. Marshall. There is arguably no greater general of the 20th century than George C. Marshall. And not just a general. He was obviously described as the architect of victory for World War II as he served FDR through those very tough years, 5 years of the war. But he went on to become Secretary of State, the author of the Marshall Plan that rescued Europe from famine, destruction, much of what we're tragically seeing today in Ukraine. But he went on to become Secretary of Defense, called back to duty by the President when U.S. forces in Korea stumbled in the early days of the war. So it is quite humbling for me to be here today and to be recognized with this wonderful plaque, to have it situated in this square with such a great man. It's been reported, and it's true for once, that Marshall's photos stood above my desk as both Secretary of the Army and Secretary of Defense. It was in that same office where Marshall, decades before me, became the organizer for Victory and War. And he watched over me closely during my tenure as Secretary of Defense. He always helped remind me of those core principles that I was taught here as a young man, a young boy, growing up in Uniontown, Pennsylvania. Hard work, dedication, a commitment to your country, a strong national defense, and doing the right thing. And so I will forever be grateful for George Marshall watching over me those many years. It is true that we grew up in this small town. Most of you don't know that George Marshall grew up right over here. He played in Cold Oak Run as a young boy, and I grew up right over there on Berkeley Street, right next to Cold Oak Run as well. And so I like to say that while he and I were 90 years apart in age, we were less than a quarter mile apart in terms of our boyhood dreams and travails. And so for that, it's another important part of Uniontown history. And I guess I'll wrap up by saying this. I know today is about presenting an award to me, a plaque, with regard to what I did as Secretary of the Army and Secretary of Defense. But I just want to thank Mark, the mayor, the city council, Ellen, all the donors, for the more important thing today. And that is the importance of this community and this town in our nation's history. Going all the way back before necessity, going back to the early years of this county, this town, during the halcyon days of the coal and steel industry, and up to this moment. I really appreciate all of you trying to look out and think about Uniontown's future and how we recognize so many of the great people who have come to this wonderful small town in southwest Pennsylvania. So thank you all very much once again.
I get the honor of recognizing some of the local dignitaries here. First of all, representing Senator Pat Toomey's office is John Frick. Representing Guy Reschenthaler's office is Patty Yager. And from Pat Stefano's office, we have Sean Conway. I see that our state representative Matthew Dowling is here, and I understand Bud Cook is here, but we have somebody representing Bud Cook. Fayette County Commissioners Dave Lohr, Vince Vasides, and Scott Dunn, though I know Vince is not here. We want to recognize the City Council and the Mayor. We've got Joseph Juhan and Jared Milley are both here. And of course the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Uniontown, present and past. Including, let's see, Matt George, Paul Palia, Antoinette Hodge, also our treasurer, Kurt Serdovan, Kendall Sisler, Doug Miller, and Andrea Myers. We also have the Fayette Chamber of Commerce represented by Muriel Nunnall, and I think maybe I'm the representative from the Friends of Marshall. I'm not sure if anyone else is here. Oh, Chris Plus, you'll represent too. Okay, it's so now we're finally to the big moment where I would like to call Mayor of Uniontown, Bill Berkey, to come up, and I think you have a few words to say, and then you will do the unveiling, right? Thank you.
Hello everyone, and welcome for attending this exciting event. As the mayor of the city of Uniontown, I'm proud to take part in this memorable occasion. I would like to thank each person participating in making this event possible. It is a true honor to be here among such distinguished guests. Mark Esper, the son of Pauline and Thomas Espers from Uniontown, and graduated from Laurel Highlands High School class of 1980. He received his Bachelor's of Science in Engineering from the United States Military Academy in 1986. Mr. Esper was a Dean's List student at West Point and received the Douglas Memorial Award for Leadership. He received a master's degree in public administration from John F. Kennedy Distinguished Eagles to the Cross. He was awarded Bronze Star, the Combat Infantry Badge, and various service medals. He's a recipient of the Department of Defense Medal for Distinguished Public Service. Mr. Esper was named the 27th United States Secretary of Defense under the Trump administration. I think all my friends here know that I really like numbers, and Mark Wafer brought it to my attention that 9% of all Secretary of Defense of the United States comes from the quite a lot, okay? This is a short list of Mr. Esper's accomplishments in service. Because of him, Uniontown has the distinction of having the second Secretary of Defense of our city. I cannot think of a more appropriate location to honor Mr. Esper's accomplishments than at the George C. Marshall Plaza Memorial Stadium. On behalf of myself, Uniontown City Council, we are proud to dedicate this plaque in the city of Uniontown. We'd like to thank all those who participated in making this possible. Mr. Esper, not only have you made your family proud, but you've made the citizens of Uniontown equally as proud. Thank you, and thank you for your service. Have a good day.
This time I'm going to ask Mark and the family to make their way to the plaque, and we'll unveil it along with Mayor Gerke. One. Everybody want to take a picture? 1, 2, 3.